Call the meeting to order.
Sean Lucas,
Here.
Justin Orff,
Here.
Jared Giddens, Aaron Peterson,
Here.
Darlene Graham,
Here.
Amy Hookstrat.
Here.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Somebody messed up my mic. And we'll move on to the visitor section. Do you have any visitors, Cindy?
First of all, we have a Nicole Lindquist that is supposed to be speaking regarding a fee waiver.
I do not, oh, there, no, do not see Nicole.
She's
not
not
see
in
Nicole.
attendance.
She's not in attendance.
First up, we have Mr. Belcher.
Mr. Belcher.
My name's Jeff Belcher. I'm at 203 South Elm, Nixa, Missouri. First thing I'd like to address, I'm going to kind of go two different directions. I hope we don't lose anybody here.
Is the red button push, Mr. Belcher? Oh, thank you very much.
You want me to start over?
You're good now.
Okay.
Go ahead.
One thing I'd like to talk, I kind of feel it in the air that we've got another mandate possibly coming down the pipeline. You hear things. Seems like we're kind of in a holding pattern, waiting to see what the rest of the people are going to do because we can't seem to decide for ourselves. Just for comparison purposes here, I seen a Facebook post on the city's webpage. I guess the police department canceled the National Night Out, and there was a total of 16 comments as of 6 o'clock this evening, I would say. There were 3 whole comments in support of another mandate, and basically there was 13, people in objection to it, that, making reasons. Why are we closing this? Why are we shutting it down? What do we got now? The Epsilon variant coming? Are they just waiting to release that one on us? Or, various comments made that aren't very supportive of, we need to start shutting things down again and canceling things. On that note, I would like to congratulate Chamber of Commerce. I guess they had a pretty big event here over the weekend. I don't know how many people were there in attendance, but it looked like a pretty good turnout. I'd be curious to know why that event was not canceled, but we're going to cancel the one for our National Night Out for our police officers. That was kind of my nice topic there. The next one I'm going to go to is, I guess Amy does a review of every council meeting, and you put your translation of it onto a website on your Facebook page, a summation, we can say.
It's a summation of
Correct.
highlights, yes.
Correct. In your last one, after the last meeting, I believe you wrote, well, this is a direct quote, that there was anger and hostility directed towards me. That microphone is still working. I'll play it back for you. Because it's, I don't know how to put the word on it, but it's not right. Where's my speaker? Okay, everybody pay attention closely and see if you hear the word Amy specified where the anger and hostility gets mentioned. Calling us a dog and pony show for exercising our rights? It's pretty bold words for a very freshman incoming city councilwoman. I mean, those are big words. You want to get to calling names, that's fine. Remember, you drew the first straw. I've got a little anger, and I've got a little hostility, and I've got a little emotion going on, and this is just the beginning of it. Okay, there was no mention of you, me.
You were speaking
Let me
directly to
finish.
me, Mr.
I get my
Belcher.
5 minutes, ma'am. You're not special, first off. This entire council and the mayor himself have felt my anger and hostility and my passion for, 10 months now. There was no hostility directed, calling you out specifically. My hostility was directed towards, for the last 10 months, this tyrannical manner in which things have been handled by the mayor and our council. I specifically was going down a list, in which in another comment further down in your summation, you, let me kill this thing off here. Sorry about that. When I mentioned the vilifying of the daddy-daughter dance, you made a comment that this is what happens when Mr. Belcher goes off topic. With that, I'd like to present a list of my notes from the last meeting. I stayed right on topic. The next to last thing I talked about was the vilification of the daddy-daughter dance. It's on my list. Yet you make me out like I'm ignorant. I can't stay on topic. There's note for note. Would y'all like to see it? I went right down the list, order for order. Would you care to see?
That's all
before you make assumptions any further? That's just wrong. But typical left-wing strategies, I guess, will play victim, insert words here and there to make it sound like, oh, he's attacking me. Like I said, you're not special. I've been coming here for 10 months. They've all heard the same voice, the same attitude, the same passion. It's just wrong. You're entitled to your opinion. I understand that. But again, not everyone's going to share your same views. And to go vilify them and call them dog and pony shows and whatnot, it's inappropriate.
Mr. Belcher,
Time's up.
the
Yes.
event that was this weekend was a private auction held by Chris Russell for his father's estate. It was not a city event.
No, they had an event up at the Chamber of Commerce itself, is the one I'm referring
That's
to.
something the chamber would have to address. Okay.
What's that?
It was a private event that was held by the boutique, where they had various boutiques, had nothing to do with the chamber.
Okay, well, the chamber was present and supporting it, right? Pushing it?
They're next door.
No, but I would have. Just being honest.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you, Mr. Belcher. As far as the national night out, that was requested to be canceled by the chief, I believe. Yeah, so that was, you don't have to comment on it, just was putting that out there. The chamber event, yeah, I believe that wasn't actually a chamber event. It was just, both the events that Chris posted this weekend were private events. As far as Amy, I let her speak for herself, but you said in the video you just played, a very freshman incoming councilwoman. I believe we have two councilwomen, one being a freshman and the other being a longtime member of this council, so I believe and you said in the video that you played that you had hostility, so.
Yeah, you were
I think,
speaking directly to me and looking directly at me. If what you're saying now is that you have anger and hostility towards not only me, but the entire council, then, okay.
Yes, and that's the way, I don't think I've changed my tone with anybody for 10 months, have I?
Next visitor.
Next visitor is Chris Russell, Nixa Chamber.
All right, yeah, we didn't have an event this weekend. We do have a new teacher luncheon tomorrow, and we are taking some advanced safety protocols. And Darlene, Councilman Grant, thank you so much for your help today getting that ready. But that's not what I'm here to talk about today. I'm excited to announce something that we've been working on. So get out your smartphones, go into your app store, and download the new Experience Nixa app. It is up and running, and you guys are one of the very first ones to actually see it in operation. I have the big version here. It looks a little bit different on your iPhone or your Droid, but I encourage you to do this. This is going to be a communication tool that we're going to be using not only to support our members, but to support Nixa as a whole. It follows the model of Eat, Shop, Live, Play. And of course, when you click on the various eat, whether Andrea, by the way, she's pictured there, and that was a stage picture. She wasn't drinking on the job, I promise you that. And however, it is a really cool way that we can communicate to our community. If you go to the Live portion, this is where we're really going to be diving into things such as the Nixa schools, our city parks. It's going to have information about our government, emergency services, how to volunteer. If you click on that, you'll see in the future lots of opportunities to learn how to volunteer. So we wanted to get this out in time for the new teacher luncheon tomorrow, so that we can get them to download it. And we've got some big plans coming with this. This is going to be really neat. Also, some cool things. This will have really great benefits when we do have Sucker Days, or we do have Nixpo, or the fireworks show, and those kind of activities. And we'll be putting in the calendars for the Nixa parks. They'll be included in this as well. It's just part of the way their calendar system is same as, I know that Drew is working on a new website in the future for the city of Nixa, but I'm confident that that calendar will be able to import as well. And the community will be able to submit events that they're doing, and it's going to be a really, really great app. In our previous strategic plan, it was outlined that we needed a community calendar, and we just could not find a way to do it that was easy and not somebody full-time job, right? And we feel that this is going to be a great program for that. So guys, I highly recommend that you check out. This is a Good News Nixa story. We've been working really, really hard behind the scenes to make this happen for not just the chamber, but the entire community. As you know, we're always working to help do more things for the city of Nixa and to connect our members and organizations to Nixa as well. And again, this isn't replacing anything Nixa Schools is doing or in the future the city of Nixa. It's just kind of bringing everybody together. So that's all I have for tonight, guys. And sorry about my casual tire. We've been setting up this afternoon for the new teacher luncheon, and it's going to be a success tomorrow. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Download? Please download the app. Yeah. As Andrea's executive board member of Andrea's board, I'm also happy that she's not drinking on the job. I will reiterate from the initial video, please no comments from the audience, so nobody can hear you, or mics don't pick it up unless you're at the podium. All right, next, please, Cindy.
Ron Sanders?
I'm not going to talk as fast as Chris here. My name's Ron Sanders of 976 Glen Oaks Drive. Hopefully we'll get that address thing taken out of there like we talked about a little while ago.
We're working on it.
I want to talk a little bit about rational thought. I started this a long time ago. Think of a couple of things. Ever since people started studying viruses and bacteria and how it affects human beings, we learned natural immunity and how natural immunity works. And all of a sudden, in November of 2020, just like the flip of a switch, natural immunity is no longer considered a part of herd immunity. Had nothing to do with science. It had nothing to do with years and years and years and years and years of study like we have coming to the conclusion that natural immunity works and herd immunity works. It's proven. Anybody who's ever run a farm, it's been proven over and over again. But all of a sudden, the powers that be decide we want to change that for this. How is that rational without us actually understanding why they did it? It's not, okay? 40 years and countless billions of dollars were spent testing the efficacy of masks. And then all of a sudden, one scientist or doctor, whoever he was, comes on TV and says one day, oh, they don't work, so tell everybody not to use them. And then another day, he comes back on, he says, oh yeah, do it, wear the masks. And then another day, he comes on the TV and says, wear two, it might work. But if you really look at all of the data, it's incidental data, but look around you, did it really work? Or was those 40 years and billions of dollars of studies confirmed once again? It's irrational to think that within 3 months we can figure or unravel 40 years of studies. Okay? It's irrational. And it makes no sense to give it credence. It's like the old man just sitting back saying, that just don't make sense. Now we're looking at, the subject is COVID, the subject is the coronavirus, something that's been around for a while. And every time something comes up, it's vilified. We don't see a bunch of people come out and say, well, hey, let's take a look, let's see if it works. But in 3 separate cases, Supreme Courts forced a doctor to give ivermectin to someone that had been in the hospital for weeks. And within 24 hours, all 3 cases were taken off of ventilators and were recovered within 7 days. Now, that's just anecdotal, but let me tell you something. For something that's been vilified for so long, I think the evidence speaks for itself. And for those of you who talk a lot about the vaccine and talk a lot about masks, you'll never hear from the farmers, you'll never hear from the ag community that can't seem to get the ivermectin or the hydroxychloroquine, that have developed the coronavirus and went to the feed store and picked up the ivermectin, strawberry flavor, or what is the other one, sour apple flavor, and took care of their infection themselves with a little bit of vitamin D, a little bit of zinc, a little bit of vitamin C, never went to the doctor, probably never got tested. If they did get tested, then they went and they took care of themselves. Why did they have to go get the horse stuff when it's like $2 a pill? It's not that expensive and it works within a few days. It just doesn't make sense. It's kind of irrational that we don't have that around. And let me tell you something. The reckoning is coming. It's not from me. It's not from anybody here on earth. But I'm here to tell you, whenever the real truth is revealed, a lot of people are going to be looking back on the last year and regretting the irrationality that they spread, the irrational thoughts and the irrational decisions that they made, and all of the division and all of the upset and even the death that brought. And it will come. It's already moving. And if you have loved ones that have died of the coronavirus, or if you had loved ones that suffered from the coronavirus, and then you see a miracle drug working that just costs $20 or $30, you're going to be saying, what did I do? What did I do? And it's going to affect us all, because for the past year, the irrational thoughts and irrational decisions have affected us all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Anybody else, Cindy?
That's it for this evening,
Right.
unless there's
We
anybody
will
else.
Leave the visitor section open. If anyone else would like to speak, you can do so at this time. And we will close visitor section and move on to our presentation. Okay.
Mayor, Council, staff has been visiting with Enterprise Fleet Management about a possible lease program for future vehicle purchases. As you know, prior to this, we have been purchasing our vehicles outright, usually on a state bid. But tonight, Ryan Owens from Enterprise Fleet Management is here to speak with council about that program. And obviously, when he's done, he'll be here to answer any questions, and staff is available as well. So I'll turn it over to Ryan. Thanks.
Thank you, Jimmy. Appreciate it. Well, first off, I'd like to say thank you, council, very much for having me and my team to represent. We really appreciate it. And big thank you to Jimmy and his team. We've been working on this venture for about the past 6 months now. So my goal today is to give you guys a background as to what it is that we do, what the value and benefit and impact is to the city, and to really just answer any questions that you may have. So to start off, just a background on Enterprise, where it comes from, et cetera. I'll take you back to 1957. Jack Taylor served on the USS Enterprise. And upon his leaving the Navy, he was a fighter jet pilot. He started executive leasing. People laughed. They said leasing cars. You fast forward about 50 plus years, and here we are with a fleet of over 2 million vehicles across 80 countries. I've been honored to serve with the Taylor family for about the last 10 years, so I'm our account executive of fleet management. Our government sector is the fastest growing industry segment that we have. We're able to bring the most value to our government clients for a variety of reasons. What we do is that we identify, first off, what is the right type and the right vehicle to run in the fleet based off of its mileage trends, what type of upfit is put on it, what is the correct cycle time based off of the industry market, where that lies on the pre-owned side, as well as some other factors. Ultimately, what we've done is we've put a proposal together, an analysis on the city's fleet from a both public works side as well as a police side. So from what we found in our analysis, over the course of 8 years, we would expect a savings of about $400,000 for the city with an average future sustainable savings of $50,000. To ultimately describe how that happens, it's a fairly simple process. Ultimately, we take advantage of the strong buy that the city already receives. We use our infrastructure and our technology to identify what is the correct cycle time. How quickly can we rotate out of this vehicle? As you guys are aware, the city has an incredible purchase on vehicles, right? So you can purchase a vehicle much cheaper than anybody else. And so what we do is we take that great buy that you get, we identify that cycle time, and then we use our professional resale team to maximize the resale. Now that cycle time could be 3, 4, 5, 6 years. It really just depends on the vehicle, how it's used, the mileage, et cetera. The city has all ownership rights. We use what's called an equity lease platform. So an equity lease platform, if anyone is financially, if anyone is financially enough, ultimately how it works is it's a finance down to a residual value, right? So the city would only be financing what we call the useful life of that asset. So we would write it down to a reduced book value. At the end of that vehicle's life, we will go and sell it in the marketplace, and all of that equity comes back into the city. My team and I have recently started a partnership with the state of Missouri, with the city of Washington, city of Jefferson City, as well as countless other cities across the state and the country. We're excited to partner with you guys, and ultimately, we're confident in the savings that we can provide, both financially and operationally, as well as with our equity platform, allowing the city to do more with less capital. So right now, the city's fleet is old. Almost half of it is over 7 years of age, which comes with many safety and technological concerns from that regard. The biggest benefit, and one of the biggest benefits aside from the savings that our government partners see, is the ability to replace and replenish the fleet at a much faster, quicker rate for less capital outflow. So ultimately, we'd just like to open the floor to see what questions you guys have.
Start by saying our current fleet is old. All the people that have been here more than 10 years would go, wow, it's way newer now than it was 10 years ago. Any questions?
Yes, would this include doing all the customization that we would need on these vehicles for police use?
That's a great question, Darlene, and yes, so BJ and my team have been working very diligently on identifying what is the exact upfit needed per vehicle. And so what our team does is we go to either our vendors or whatever vendor BJ and his team would like us to, and we identify ultimately, hey, this is what we're looking to put in the vehicle. We make sure that my engineers will build it out, make sure that it's priced correctly, that it's the right type, the right fit. We put all of that into our vehicle quote. So ultimately, when the vehicle delivers to BJ and his team, it'll be ready to roll. You know, I hate to use the word turnkey. I think it's a little cheesy, but it is when it arrives.
Does that include the paint jobs and everything on it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
And then just for clarification, those that may not know BJ, he's the employee that is in charge of our vehicle program that works under Chief Campbell.
Any other questions? No? No. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you,
Any
Council.
questions or
Appreciate
comments
it.
from staff?
Sure.
I guess.
That's right. Mayor, Council, staff is looking for some direction tonight as we have started our budget process for the 2022 budget cycle. So we're needing some direction. If you want us to continue down this path, then we will work that into our budget. That will be presented to council later this year. And if not, we'll need to know that as well so we could look at budgeting and vehicle purchases. Staff has looked at this program quite extensively, along with Doug and Mr. Colvin and Chief Campbell and Ms. Evans as well. We've had multiple meetings, and we can definitely see the potential savings here for the city, especially long-term. I will say, though, that once we enter this program, it is a long-term commitment, although we can exit at any time. But to take advantage of the savings, it would be something that we would need to stay in long-term to really see that savings. We have reached out, I know Ms. Evans reached out to Branson as well and talked to them because they do utilize the program. And they are very happy with the program and said that the deliverables are there. What they were promised is exactly what they're seeing. So now there is a issue with delivery time, and I don't know if Mr. Owens would want to comment on that, but right now it takes a while to get the vehicles in. So there is that concern about, that's right. And we're just now getting ready to get some of the vehicles in we ordered earlier in the year. So to kind of help with that, one of the options would be that we could go ahead and start the process and get those contracts done. And Mr. Woodman has been off for a few days, but he's working through those contracts, so he's not in a position tonight to present those. But he is working through those, and we'll be working with Enterprise. But if we can move forward with that, one of the options is that we could go ahead and get those vehicles on order with some direction and we could bring something back to council to do that. But obviously, no funds would be expended till after the first of the year until they are delivered. And Mr. Owens has stated that we can make that timing work out just fine where they're delivered after the first of the year.
Jimmy, how many vehicles at
Yep, please do.
a time are we talking about doing?
I'm sorry.
How many vehicles at a time are we talking about receiving?
So, yeah, so that's a great point,
varies.
Jimmy. So to kind of further explain how that would work is ultimately, we actually direct order straight from the manufacturer. So we'll go straight to Ford or GM or whoever that may be on your behalf. Right now, the manufacturer build times are going to be anywhere from, I would say, right around that 34-week period. So the initial waiting phase is that point, but part of what we do is we give a strategic and ongoing consulting throughout the life of our partnership, right? So we will know that as we order these initial vehicles, yes, 34 weeks they'll deliver. Depending on what their cycle is, whether that's 3 years or 4 years or 5, we will then proactively order their replacements ahead of time to ensure that when the replacements come, the other ones are ready to roll out of their lease. We will take those, we'll sell them on your behalf, that equity flows back into the city.
Is that lead time different for the police vehicles as opposed to just a standard, like?
The lead time is fairly similar as of right now.
Everybody's waiting on the same chip to come to
Yeah.
the car, right? They're all just sitting out there waiting.
Right.
Those cargo containers are sitting out in the
Yep,
bay.
the cars just sitting out at the factories, waiting.
Any other questions? And also one more, Jimmy, to Jimmy's point, so we would recommend obviously that we proceed with ordering those as soon as possible. The first down payment or the first cash outlay for the city would not actually take place until the vehicles deliver.
And are there administration fees associated with this as well, I would assume, because of the service that you're providing, or is that?
Yes, so all of the numbers and all of the pricing that we show on our lease quote details out where Enterprise makes their money, for lack of a better term. Our profit centers are ultimately just a management fee, and then we act as the bank, so the interest.
And then I'll just add on that if council elects to continue down this direction, we're also exploring the option to do the same program with the other departments as well. We're currently getting some data together from the Parks Department, planning and development for their vehicles as well. But this first year, it'll probably end up being more likely just the Police Department and Public Works.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, council, appreciate it.
I think everybody understands my feelings on leasing. I think that's a great way. That's what businesses use to smooth out their expenses over time, so we don't have these 5-year jumps where we have, huge amounts of vehicles that have to be replaced. Same thing with computers or printers or copiers, all of those things. That's what most businesses have gone to. I think it's a good program for us to go in as well. Yeah. Everybody say yes? Yeah. Everybody say
Okay, we will continue down that path. Thank you.
All right, we will move into our first reading section. First reading Bill 2021-081.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-081, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa establishing and levying taxes on real property in the city for the 2021 tax year. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This is me. Each year, the real estate tax has to be levied, must be set for the city. In order to do that, we have to post a legal notice of the tax hearing in the paper, which that has been sent for publication. It should come out tomorrow. We hold a public hearing, and then we also pass an ordinance authorizing the levy. This has to be sent to the county by August 31st for final certification. The anticipated rate will be provided by the state auditor's office later this month, but I went ahead and generated an ordinance for first reading this evening. It has the last year's rate of .3246 in it. If we receive the performer from the state auditor's office with a different amount for this coming year, I've also going to have, at the next meeting, have our second reading, and we'll have an amendment to the ordinance ready to go.
Okay.
But I wanted to get ahead of this and provide it to you this evening. And so I'm available for any questions on this.
That's quite possible with the increase in the property tax
It could
amount.
go
It
down.
was-
Yeah, it will never go
the
up, it'll go
Total value
down.
went up a lot, yeah.
Yeah. And I did include the evaluations in the packet for your review as well.
Any questions? We will open up a public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, you can do so at this time. And we'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion? No? All right. Thank you, Cindy. We'll move on to the next one, 2021-082.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-082, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa, amending the 2021 annual budget to appropriate funding for enterprise resource planning consultation services.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. If you'll recall, at our council workshop, staff brought to your attention the need for enterprise resource planning software, which is basically a fancy word for software throughout the city that all talks to one another, financials, human resources, payroll, permitting, dog licenses, all of that talks to one another. It's been well over 10 years since we've had a new system. The system we have, we've run into some problems with lately, aren't too happy with our customer service on that front. So it's our recommendation to start looking into options for a new system. Because it's such an extensive, broad area, and because of the price, it's going to be very costly. We don't want to just jump right into something that we need help with. We need help with it. We need experts, and our current municipal advisor offers enterprise resource planning consultation services. And so we already have a very well-established relationship with Baker Tilly, and they offer this service. And it's a 5 or 6 months long process. They will come in and do a needs assessment. They will figure out what we need. They will write the RFP for us. They will solicit to they have all the resources. They know who's in this space. And then they will help us interpret the results of the RFP and help us to select the best vendor that will meet our needs. And so you were sent the proposal that they put together that shows the scope of their services. And so staff is recommending that we appropriate the money in the budget for this service.
Any questions?
Was our current system the one that caused a lot of issues with utilities?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
Any other questions? Thank you, Joe. We will open up a public hearing if anyone would like to speak to this item. And close the public hearing. Remind me, I had talked to Commissioner Phillips that they may be interested in doing this as well. So maybe something we could work with them in concert to cut our
Absolutely.
costs, their costs.
Sure, I'll reach out to him
Yeah.
and talk to him about that this week.
Maybe Ozark too. I think they have the same software system as well.
Okay, I'll definitely reach out.
Any other discussion? All right, we'll move on to the next one. See, might know the number, but 2021-083.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-083, an ordinance of the council of the city of Nixa amending the 2021 annual budget to provide funding for the community center roof renovation project.
Good evening. In our budget process for this year, we did budget to have the roof, the flat roof at the community center rehabilitated to some extent, and we've got a couple of problematic areas that are needing to be repaired. Nothing that's full leaks or anything that way, but a couple of areas that we know that the water is penetrating the gravel surface of the roof. And so we did consult with a provider to get our budget numbers. However, in the time that we have done that, late summer of last year to now, material costs and manpower and everything have gone up. So when we bid that this year, they did come in, we did get 3 quotes, or 3 bids, with the cheapest bid being about $12,342 over the budget that we had planned for this year. And so tonight I'm asking for a budget amendment in the amount of $12,350 to cover the overage that bid did come in so that we can get that roof repair done. This roof repair should provide us another 10 to 15 years or more of coverage to continue to extend the life of the roof. And a complete restoration or complete removal and redo of the roof would be much, much more expensive. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And we'll open up the public hearing if you would like to speak to the community center roof. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Move on to the next one, 2021-084.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-084, an ordinance of the council of the city of Nixa approving the preliminary plat of the Walker Estates subdivision generally located at the southeast corner of the intersection of Main Street and Tracker Road, and authorizing certain city officials to take certain actions upon the filing of a final plat.
Good evening. Wanted to start, before we do these 2 preliminary plats and these next 2 bills, with just kind of a brief summary of the development process. We're kind of in a later stage, and sometimes these processes take place over the course of years, and so it can sometimes be difficult to keep track of where we're at and how the decision-making posture changes over time. So in these cases, anytime we're talking about a major subdivision, those, of course, always begin at the zoning phase, where what you have is somebody's going to ask for a particular zoning district that will give them some rights for development. So if you are asking for the single-family zoning district, if it's approved, you will then have the right to develop your property with single-family residential houses, as many as you can fit within the maximums allowed by the code. Before we make that decision, we have a public hearing before the Planning and Zoning Commission, where Planning and Zoning Commission and staff are basically on a fact-finding mission, right? We're trying to find facts that are relevant to should this zoning get approved or not by the council. We bring that recommendation to you, and you exercise legislative discretion in making that decision. Is this the right thing to do based on the facts that staff and P&Z are providing us with? In those cases, again, the council, it's a legislative decision. You have a lot of discretion. Of course, I don't encourage you to exercise that just without limit. You don't want to be arbitrary or capricious, right? So I always encourage what I refer to as an operative assumption in favor of the applicant. So if the applicant is asking for particular zoning, what I encourage is for P&Z and council to take a position of, we're going to give you what you're asking for because you are the property owner, unless we have some really good reasons based on the facts we found to say no, right? So it kind of puts the burden of proof on the government to say, hey, we're going to deny it, and here's all of our reasons. Here's the facts that we found that back that up. And the reason that's good is it's better for economic development. It's better for just general preservation of liberty purposes. That's why I recommend that. So there's discretion there at that early stage. Then once you've established what those development rights are, the decision-making posture changes for the remainder of this process, right? So once you've got your zoning established, if you want to do a subdivision, if you want to turn it into a bunch of single-family homes, if that's the zoning you're in, you then have to file a preliminary plat. And when I say the decision-making posture changes, this is no longer a legislative decision, but it's an administrative decision. The question is now, does it meet the code requirements, right? So you have the right to develop with single-family zoning, but the code requires that each of those houses be on its own lot, that those lots be of a certain size, a certain width, and that each of those lots are served by a public street, public water source, public wastewater, et cetera, right? So you've got to meet those code requirements. If you meet those code requirements, then the city says yes, because you have the right, right? So we're going to protect that right by saying yes as long as you meet the code requirements. So that's the question. Does it meet the code requirements or not? We got a little bit off track with our last P&Z meeting where there began to be some discussion of, well, I don't like this, right? Once you've transitioned out of zoning, it doesn't matter whether we like it or not. The question is, does it meet the code, right? So that's the decision-making posture from the pre-plat. Then you transition into infrastructure construction where staff reviews your specific engineering plans. Again, it's not about whether we like it or not. It's about does it satisfy what's required in the city's adopted technical specifications manual. If it does, we're going to say yes, and we're going to issue your permit. You go, you build the infrastructure, then it's time to file your final plat. Again, and council's not even going to see it at that point. You are, by approving the pre-plat in that ordinance, you're delegating some authority to myself, to Doug, and to Cindy to take care of that on your behalf, right? So they're going to prepare a final plat, and again, as long as it matches the pre-plat that you all approved, we're going to sign it, we're going to say yes to it, and it's going to get filed, right? So it's, again, those decision-making postures transition from one of legislative discretion towards one of administrative execution, right? Does it meet the code or does it not? So I just want to put that up there, put the whole process there for you to see it, because where we're at tonight on both of these is the zoning is established and we are now at that second preliminary plat stage. So this first bill is the Walker Estates subdivision, which is located here at the southeast corner of Main Street and Tracker Road. Has a combination of R3 multifamily, R1 single family, and general commercial zoning shown there. The orange is the multifamily, the yellow shading is the single family, and the red is the general commercial lot. It's a total of just over 28 acres. It's planned to contain 25 single family lots, 2 multifamily lots that are about 8 acres in total. I think a lot of it's consumed by a large sinkhole, so the yield will probably be more in the range of 90-ish dwelling units on those 2 multifamily lots. And then the 1 general commercial lot and 2 common areas that will be maintained by an association of the property owners within this subdivision. All of the lots created are served by public street, what will be public street once it's constructed, public water and public sanitary sewer, as required by the city code. Staff has reviewed this preliminary plat and determined that it does comply with the requirements of the city's code. In addition to this, there will be some off-site improvements that will take place. What the city code requires is that traffic impact is analyzed and then improvements are built off-site, outside of the subdivision, to handle those traffic impacts. So in this case, normally we would say study all of these and then build the improvements that the study recommends at each of the intersections of the existing arterial street network, which in this case would be Main and Tracker. But what staff did here is propose something slightly different. Because the city already has plans to improve and widen Main Street, what we didn't want is for a developer to construct some improvements there just for us to come through and tear it back out, right? So instead, we made an arrangement with this particular developer to take that value of the improvements on Main Street and just put it all on Tracker. Since the city's going to come through and do Main Street anyways, you put all of that value on Tracker. So what we'll have on Tracker then is, rather than just having improvements at those 2 intersections, it will be a fully widened 3-lane section all the way through to the eastern edge of the Walker Woods subdivision, which will be the pre-plat on the next bill. So again, this is the pre-plat. Staff recommends approval. Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval by a vote of what I think was 5 to 1.
Any questions? Thank you for explaining that to us. It gives a good underlying idea that it's not our destination, it's not our decision to decide what goes there, just what type of thing goes there, right? So it's not,
correct.
When people say, why did you build a Jiffy Lube instead of a Chick-fil-A? We can't decide what the owner of that property is going to do with it, or who they're going to sell it to and what they're going to construct, but.
Precisely, and you're welcome.
Thank you, Garrett. We will open the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this, you can at this time.
I'm David Garrett with Toth and Associates, 1550 East Republic Road in Springfield. I'm here on behalf of the developer just to answer any questions on this. So,
Does anyone have any questions for the engineer?
I still have a concern. And that's about, I guess it's called Mandy Lane, being so close to the tracker stoplight.
yeah, there's been a plan in place to modify Main to drop that hill down, what, 6 to 10 feet, something like that. That'll help out with the site visibility quite a bit there, so it'll improve safety. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
We will leave open the public hearing. And close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Would you like any additional information on that, Ms. Graham, or
No.
are you satisfied with that? Okay. All right. We will then move on to the next bill, 2021-085.
First reading, Council Bill Number 2021-085, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa approving the preliminary plat of the Walker Woods subdivision generally located at the northeast corner of the intersection of Main Street and Tracker Road, and authorizing certain city officials to take certain actions upon the filing of a final plat.
So this is the previous pre-plat was the Walker Estates. This is the Walker Woods subdivision located at the northeast corner. Again, it contains a combination of zoning, general commercial, and single-family. This preliminary plat contains 54 single-family residential lots, 2 general commercial lots that you see there with the red shading, and 4 common areas that, again, will be maintained by an association of the property owners. Staff, again, reviewed this preliminary plat for compliance with the city's code and presented it to the Planning and Zoning Commission, who also recommended its approval by a vote of 5-1. And the off-street improvements to Tracker Road are applicable to this subdivision, same as I presented for the prior one.
And this doesn't have any multifamily included, it's just single family.
That's correct. The only residential land use here is single family.
Isn't there a house like just kind of offset on the corner there? Is that house included in this plot, or plat?
There is a house, and its location is approximately right
It's
there.
on the corner of Main and Tracker.
I assume they're going to demolish that house.
Yes, I don't believe that house will remain.
Okay.
Is that correct? Yes, that house will be leaving.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Sorry.
It's very nice that you left the Walkers in the name, Mr. Walker and his family, in the names of the estate, or the subdivisions and the streets. I thought that was very nice.
Sorry, I think earlier Ms. Graham's question about Mandy Lane, I believe that's on this subdivision, and the question was proximity to the intersection. So one of those code requirements I was talking about deals with those distances, separation from an intersection. If this one seems a little bit closer, Main Street is actually a lower class thoroughfare compared to Tracker. It's a collector, whereas Tracker is a secondary arterial, so that separation is not as high on that collector thoroughfare as you might see on a higher classification road like Tracker. I don't know the history well enough to know why Main is classified lower. But a lot of times it has to do with traffic volumes and just the general plan of the transportation system overall. But Main is a collector, while as Tracker is a secondary arterial.
I just know it's a very high traffic in the evening, particularly
I
on
do-
Main coming into Nixa.
I do believe the volumes on Main Street are higher compared to Tracker. I don't know if Jeff is here or Travis may know.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, Main Street does carry more traffic on a daily basis. That's correct.
And that's my only concern, is people getting in and out on Main when it's the real high-density traffic in the morning and in the evening.
Yeah.
So,
From a best practices standpoint and from a code compliance perspective, it should be safe. That's assuming people are driving reasonably, of course.
That's a big assumption.
Any other questions? Thank you, Eric. And we'll open up the public hearing if anyone would like to speak on this portion.
Yeah, my name is Ron Sanders, 976 Glen Oaks Drive. I think I share some concerns with Ms. Graham. The Main Street right there in the morning and the evening it's jammed with people going to Springfield. It's the alternate route for 160. And having that one road coming out right there, people aren't going to be able to make left turns. They might not be able to make right turns. And eventually, as we grow, that's going to end up being another stoplight. So then you're going to have 2 stoplights within less than a quarter of a mile, an eighth of a mile. And that's just going to destroy the traffic flow coming in and out of the city. How are we going to get employees to Springfield? Is there a bigger plan to create bigger arterials up into the Springfield area? Because I would guess that's probably where about half the people that have jobs work, just based on my driving when everybody else is driving in the morning and in the evening. That right there would definitely jam things up pretty well. I like that they didn't put anything on the backside, coming out on that Woodview Road, but still people have to pull out on Tracker, which is a pretty busy road, and it's going to become even more busy as people start living there and the rest of the barren areas up there. Yeah, that's a big concern.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. And we'll leave the public hearing open. And we'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion? I don't think you could have a light that close, Travis. Yeah, I don't think that, yeah. But the next controlled access would be at CC, however that gets controlled, right? Yeah.
I put a roundabout there, Brian.
That's the plan. That's Travis's plan. We'll move on to the next one, Council Bill 2021-086.
First reading, Council Bill number 2021-086, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa rezoning the real property generally located at the southeast corner of the intersection of South Nicholas Road and West Torrey Drive from Neighborhood Commercial District to R4 Residential District.
So now we're back to that first stage of the development process I showed you earlier, the zoning stage. This application requests to rezone approximately 1.2 acres located at the intersection of Nicholas Road and Torrey Drive from the Neighborhood Commercial Zoning District into the R4 Residential Zoning District. The R4 Residential Zoning District permitting the development of residential housing at a density of almost 5.5 dwelling units per acre in the style of either a duplex or a townhome type of construction where the dwelling units themselves are contained to their own lot, right? So different than a multifamily where you might have multiple buildings on the same lot. This will just be one dwelling unit per lot with requirements that control the density. The site does have immediate access to all of the necessary public utilities and infrastructure to support that type of development. The stormwater is already managed because it is a lot within an existing major subdivision, so it already has its own detention basin that was designed to handle stormwater runoff from this lot as well as the other lots in the subdivision. The maximum density of development, if this zoning is approved, would yield approximately 13 dwelling units. Since it is 1.2 acres, though, as you'll see here, it's highly unlikely that it would actually yield even half of that max potential, just given the situation, just given the size and the arrangement of the infrastructure surrounding it, it would be extremely difficult. So this is the location here that's designated there as subject property. The pink shading, of course, showing the existing neighborhood commercial zoning district. The kind of the darker yellow shading immediately to the south, that is R4 zoning, right? So it adjoins the zoning that it's currently requesting. This map also shows all of the locations of the existing electric, water, and sanitary sewer assets that the city has in the general vicinity. Here's a closer image of the property itself with some dimensions, approximately 300 feet of frontage on Nicholas, about 165 feet of frontage on Torrey. The development here would require the installation of a Type C broken screen. That's the green line shown between, if this is approved, what would be R4 zoning against the R1 zoning that's immediately to the east there. That broken screen as depicted there would just basically be some tree plantings, trees that are supposed to grow to at least 20 feet in height at maturity, just to create some kind of intermittent visual obstructions between the two dissimilar zoning districts. We may have to, just to be upfront, we may have to get a little bit creative with the developer here to get that installed, because we do have some electric assets, some two-phase electric assets that are right there on that property line as well. We obviously want to avoid conflicts with trees if we can, so we may have to get a little bit creative on how we arrive at the screen, but that is required by the code. It does have an existing access onto Nicholas Road, which is a MoDOT-controlled route, so it's not a city street. It's a MoDOT-controlled route at that location, and that's likely to be the only access that's going to be available on Nicholas Road. If other accesses are requested, the city will recommend to MoDOT that we are not favorable to that, because it is a primary arterial. The priority needs to be given to the traffic, not to access on primary arterials. So it has an existing access. I doubt MoDOT will take that away. They'll be allowed, I'm sure, to enjoy that access that they've already been given, but any other additional access will have to come off of West Torrey Drive. So again, if I kind of zoom back out here, you can see that about the same shape and size of that, of the existing zoning directly to the south, it only is going to yield 5 or 6 dwelling units of that type of construction. So you can guess that, you know, this is probably only going to yield about that same, about has that same potential. So again, you do the math, gross potential yield could be up to 13 dwelling units, but I seriously doubt you would get anywhere near that. So staff has reviewed this and is recommending its approval. Planning and Zoning Commission held a public hearing last Monday evening and voted unanimously to recommend its approval.
Are you talking about multifamily units on that property then, instead of single-family?
So the naming convention that we use for our zoning districts here is, I get probably confusing. This is not the zoning district that is labeled as multifamily. It's just labeled as R4. It doesn't really have a name, like a label, like some of the other districts do. But it's what you would see built there, you would probably look at driving down the street and call it a duplex.
Did anybody from Torrey Drive show up at the meeting last night?
We had no participants. I don't know whether there was anybody in the audience, but we had nobody approach the podium to speak on this particular application. I know staff took a few phone calls and answered a couple questions over the phone, but nobody
I'm just curious,
participated.
because I only saw one little bitty sign out by where that concrete drive is on
I assume you
Nicholas.
notified
It
all
even
the
said there
people
was a
that would be
zoning
on the
thing, so-
circle behind there and within.
Yes, we place a sign, we put a notice in the newspaper, and then we provide a certified mailing to all property owners within 185 feet. So they get a special notice that contains a letter and a map explaining to them what's about to happen and how they can express their interests before the commission and the council.
Okay.
I think this would be a less intensive usage probably than if it was if it became a commercial.
Correct, right.
You could try to fit a gas station or something. I don't know what you fit in there, but
Yeah.
No, because it
little strip
slopes,
center is what you could fit in
and
there.
it slopes like that,
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Any other questions?
No.
Thank you, Garrett. We will open the public hearing if anyone would like to speak to this item. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? If not, we will move on to our second reading. Second reading, Bill 2021-071.
Second reading, Council Bill Number 2021-071, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa accepting the bid of Build Tech Construction Incorporated for the Well House Number 1 Improvement Project and authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract for the same.
Mayor, Council, for your consideration this evening is a ordinance that would provide for a bid award to Build Tech Construction for the demolition
and construction of a new well house at well number 1, located at 209 St. Louis Street. This project was identified as a CIP project in the 2021 budget. The low bid, Build Tech, has come in at $76,000 under that provided budget. And the scope of the project would be to remove the existing well house and ground storage tank that's located within the building and construct a new well house that is more up to date with our needs and functionality. The existing well house is in an extreme state of disrepair and needs to be removed and replaced.
Any questions?
Nope.
Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
We will open up the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this. And close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
Get to Amy.
Roll call, please.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
And move on to 2021-073.
Second reading, Council Bill number 2021-073, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa calling for special election on November 2nd, 2021, to submit to the qualified voters of the city the question of whether to recall Mayor Brian Steele, authorizing the city clerk to do all things necessary or convenient to submit said question in amending the 2021 annual budget to provide funding for said special election. Mayor and Council, this is me again. This evening, I have for your consideration the final reading for the Council Bill 2021-073, which calls for the special election on November 2nd with recalling the mayor. Also included in this ordinance is a budget amendment for $15,000 to pay for the election costs. This is an estimate. If the election costs exceed the $15,000, then I will be back again asking for another budget amendment. This election stems from the recall petition that was submitted back in June. I have to have this submitted to the certification for the county clerk by August 24th. That's my deadline. Do you have any questions on this?
I had a question for Drew. This doesn't include any budget for you to advertise the election like we normally would for our, so how does that work? Since like, if it was a proposition that we were putting forward, a yes or no proposition that the city was putting forward, we would have advertising to let people know about the election and what was being, what the item was that was being brought up for election. Is that something we would do here or not do? And did we not think about that? Do we have any money budget for that? Okay, I'll give that to you, Jim.
I'll just
You don't want to?
comment that typically that would be an educational campaign that we would do, educating the public on what the ballot initiative is. So that would be our typical response. So it really wouldn't be like an advertisement, it would be an educational campaign.
And I do, sorry.
No, I was just going to say we don't currently have any funds budgeted for that specific education campaign, but we can definitely look at our budget and see where we set and see if we have that in the funds. If not, we can come back to council with that.
We can include it in social media and things like that to just to
Absolutely.
advertise the election to the public.
Yeah, so I budgeted for this year, not knowing what might come up during the course of a year, about $1,000 for printing products or buying Facebook ads, things like that. So that money is sitting unused so far this year, and it can be used towards educating the public about this. And if we need to spend more than that, then I'll certainly bring that to Jimmy.
This is a different type of thing, so I don't know if that's correct or not, but to let people know about the election seems like something the city should do. Any other questions? Nope. We'll open up public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this item, you can do so at this time. And we'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Roll call, please.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Justin Orff.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Move on to the next one, 2021-074.
Second reading, Council Bill Number 2021-074, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2021 annual budget to appropriate funding for the fence portion of the city's dog park project.
Good evening. As discussed at the July 26th meeting, the funds for the carryover funds from the dog park construction were missed and left off. And so we were trying to get those added. That portion of the funds would be to provide the fencing and the last little bits of work that we need to do to get the dog park open to the public. And so tonight is the final approach for the funds in the amount of $45,925 as a budget amendment to get those funds pulled into this year's budget so that we can complete the dog park. I have also included the other bidders, just so you could see those bidders as well.
What would be the proposed date to open the dog park? I had a question from a friend of ours with a very, very large dog that I think you know.
Oh, yes.
Asking about that.
It's probably the largest dog in town.
Well, they don't live in town, but that is a very large dog, yes.
It is a very large dog. The fencing company is really ready to roll very, very quickly, as early as possibly next week, pending weather where they're currently working, but definitely within the next couple of weeks. Once they got that done, we would have just a little bit of signage and work through that way, a little bit of concrete work, and we'd be ready to roll. And so any additionals that we want to do to the park, we could do once the park is open. And so something like an addition of a bathroom and things like that we can do once the park is open. So I would really hope sometime September, October, giving us just a little bit of time, playing with the weather. Obviously is very good right now, but just giving us that time that we would need to get the park going.
So they already have the material and
They do.
They're just waiting for the approval.
They're waiting for the approval and the go. I know, very, very quickly. Some of these companies were out 16 to 18 weeks. This one was basically ready to go the second we started talking about it. So, very impressive.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
And we'll open up the public hearing if you would like to speak to the dog fence. And we'll close the public hearing. Motion to approve.
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Darlene Graham?
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat?
Yes.
Sean Lucas?
Yes.
Justin Orff?
Yes.
Aaron Peterson?
Yes.
And we're almost done. 2021-075, please.
Second reading, Council Bill Number 2021-075, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa accepting the bid of K&B Equipment LLC for the adjustment of certain sewer utility access points, authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract for same, and amending the 2021 annual budget to provide funding for same.
Yes, the purpose of this ordinance is provide authorization to award a bid to K&B Equipment for infrastructure improvements on East Highway 14, resulting from the proposed improvements that MoDOT has planned for that corridor. It includes the raising of 14 manholes that have been identified at the time of design of the MoDOT corridor. The manholes need to be raised in advance of that construction beginning at the end of this year, first of next year. Unfortunately, it is, the authorization of this bill is accompanied by a budget amendment. At the time of budget preparation last year, we were unaware of the need to raise the manholes. MoDOT had not concluded the final design of the corridor until spring of this year. At that time, we started working with them to identify which of our utilities needed to be adjusted, moved, and in order to accommodate their proposed improvements. And during the course of that review, we identified these 14 manholes that are currently too low, with the final grade of the project necessitating that they need to be raised. So the award of the project to K&B Equipment is also accompanied with a budget amendment.
Any questions? Thank you, Travis.
Thank you.
And we'll open the public hearing. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham.
Yes.
And last one, 2021-076.
Second reading,
Last-
Council Bill Number 2021-076, an ordinance of the Council of the City of Nixa amending the 2021 annual budget to appropriate funding for an outstanding invoice for maintenance work on Water Tower Number 5.
I poked myself in the eye. Mayor and council, this bill authorizes a budget amendment in the amount of $43,340. This is for an outstanding invoice from April of, or actually 2015. The project started in 2014 when the city contracted with utility services to do some maintenance and painting on Tower Number 5, which is the tower over by the high school. They completed their work and left. Well, they thought they completed their work. We had to go in and clean up some stuff. But they did not provide us the final inspection report, nor did they send us an invoice. Through the rest of 2014, and we carried over the funds into 2015, through parts of 2015, Milton Dickensheet, our former water quality superintendent, had numerous emails and conversations trying to get the report and the invoice so we could pay it. He even went so far as to send a certified letter on the 15th of October of 2015. Come 2016, we just didn't budget it anymore. We haven't budgeted it since and hadn't, actually, we'd pretty well forgot about it. However, we did get an invoice in May of this year. Working back and forth with them, they did send us a report, and then we've been advised to go ahead and pay it. It's within the realm of monies that are owed, so that's the reason for this request for budget amendment.
Any questions?
This is just pure curiosity, but I mean, did we get any sort of explanation as to why it took 7 years for us to get the final bill?
No, we didn't. I do know that the person we've worked with since May is not the person we were working with back in October 2015.
And I guess there's not a statute of limitations, or it's longer. Okay.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Yeah, too bad.
Can we stall?
Can we just ignore them for 5 years like they ignored us for 5 years? No, we were told we couldn't do that, so, okay. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. We will open the public hearing and close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
So made.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Sean Lucas,
Yes.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat.
Yes.
And we'll move on to the resolutions. Resolution 2021-081.
Resolution number 2021-081, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract with the Christian County Business Development Corporation for their continued services in promoting economic development within the Christian County.
All right. Mayor, council, just a really quick brief history here. But back in 2016, the city of Nixa entered into a memorandum of understanding, or otherwise what we call an MOU, with the city of Ozark and Christian County, which kind of formed what is known today as Show Me Christian County, but their technical name is Christian County Business Development Corporation. So that was done back in 2016. That original MOU gave a contribution of $25,000 a year to the organization. As you recall, last year, council elected to up that investment to $50,000. And because of that investment, we needed to enter into a new agreement that also showed that additional funds going to Show Me Christian County. So tonight before you is the agreement between the city of Nixa and Show Me Christian County that includes that additional investment. Now, on council's direction, I have included Exhibit A, you'll notice in your packet, is the scope of services that is included in that agreement. And just I'll just do a quick rundown of those. I'm not going to get too in the weeds, but just a quick rundown. They'll include things such as assessing and inventory buildings and sites for prospective commercial and industrial use. Also provide liaison services between the City of Nixa and Missouri Partnership, which would also include the planning and coordination of site visits. Provide the City of Nixa with regular reporting, but no less than quarterly, on business retention and expansion insights and findings. And I just will pause just for a moment to let you know that Show Me has already begun that. As a matter of fact, Andrea brought Anna today to our economic development meeting, and she gave us a very good rundown of her efforts on BR&E. And they're going to do that at least quarterly, but quite honestly, it'll probably be more often than that. They've agreed to come as often as we would like for them to. So they've already started that. They also provide frequent and prominent promotion of the city, of the Nixa community in Christian County on their website, as well as marketing and promotional content. Provide semi-annual assessment of economic and market conditions. Track and assess state, regional, and county level legislative and policy activity, and provide regular updates to myself or the city administrator. Provide expert assistance and advice in evaluating business development incentive requests. And again, any kind of incentives would ultimately be up to council approval, but they will help with that process. Provide liaison services to existing and prospective businesses with a demonstrated need for access to financial capital for startup and expansion. And then lastly, we've also included, just to make sure that we maintain a minimum of one board seat on the board of directors, which currently Mayor Steele holds. So that's just kind of a quick rundown of the scope of services. This agreement will be for 1 year. We have already give our $25,000 investment for this year based on our current MOU. Once this is signed, if council approves, we will then pay the additional $25,000 investment upon the execution of the contract. Andrea has reviewed the contract as well as in an agreement, so be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Thank you very much. We will open the public hearing if you would like to speak to this item. We'll have Andrea come up and you can ask her any questions you'd like to ask Andrea.
Thank you all. My scheduled update will be at the next meeting. I just wanted to say thank you for your review and just to make myself available for any questions. Don't have any specific remarks, but it is a pleasure to serve the city of Nixa, and my entire team looks forward to doing so. Are there any questions?
Any questions for Andrea? Thanks. And we'll leave open the public hearing.
Kent Ward, 201 West State Street here in Nixa. Why is this doubling? I haven't heard a reason why. That's all I'm trying to find out.
Jimmy.
Sure. As Show Me Christian County continues, or Show Me as far as the organization continues to grow, they're offering more and more services to the city, the county, and all cities within Christian County as well. And with that, as the organization grows, they have to add personnel to meet those needs. And so this is just part of that. And I'm as far as specifically where those funds are going, Andrew could probably answer that much better than I can. But I can tell you that is a big part of it as that organization grows and they're providing more benefit to the city and the communities.
So we're doubling the benefit to the city of Nixa.
Originally, the organization only had one person. We only had Andrea. We're up to 4 people now, each one handling a different element of the economic development process. So I wouldn't say 4 times as much, but we're definitely getting a lot more for our money than we previously were. We're also keeping in step with our partners in Ozark and Christian County, who both have done similar, have gone to a similar amount.
And they've expanded to business retention and expansion. They've added personnel to handle that directly. They've expanded into workforce development, which they've added personnel to handle that. So there's several other aspects now. That original $25,000 was a startup to help them get started. And now that they're adding these other elements, it's just going to provide further benefit.
Okay, and Andrea, I've heard you give presentations before, so I have nothing. I was just trying to figure out why we were coming up with twice as much. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I think Andrea can correct me if we're wrong, but I think where the majority is now funded by public sector or by private sector donations or investments, and not by the public sector, which originally was more of a public sector. We've been able to increase the value to businesses in the county, been able to kind of get a little bit more investment from them as well. We'll leave the public hearing open. If anyone else would like to speak. Mr. Russell.
Yeah, I'll just say something quick because I think it's important to understand. And I think this will help clear up maybe Ken's concern. Chris Russell, Nixa Chamber. You know, it's really easy to say, because I was sitting in his chair at one point going, oh, we don't need an economic development director. We can do this on our own. Let's just hire somebody. Remember those days that I used to say that? And then, you know, you find out that there was a bigger picture. And so what we need to realize is that, yes, we're spending money that's coming out of our city budget to fund something that could very likely land a big project with their efforts in another community or help another community business to grow and expand. And that's not what we got to look at here. What we have to look at is that, yes, the Nixa Chamber does great things right here within the 65714 zip code, but Christian County is looking at a bigger picture. If we land a major manufacturer, let's just say it is in Ozark, or let's just say it is in Clever or Highlandville, then what we have to remember, that benefits the region as a whole. Let's say that, I know she's got some projects working in those communities, and let's just say they do land something where do you think they're going to shop? Where do you think they're going to play? Where do you think they're going to live? Oh, did I just plug the app? I think I may have. Anyway, I'm just saying there is a bigger picture here. So I know you guys see this, but as you're sitting out there and maybe hearing this for the very first time, hearing about why we're doubling that, and I understand Mr. Ward's concerns completely. I totally understand it. I'd be like, what the heck are they doing? But we got to think of this as a bigger regional picture, and we have seen some success this year with the increased sales tax. We have seen some increase in our use tax, and so there are available funds for that, because we can use those use taxes to make sure that parks and police have those monies so we can turn right around and reinvest in local development. So Nixa Chamber is fully in support of the investment that the city of Nixa is making on this, and I think it's going to a good cause. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. And we'll leave open the public hearing. And we'll close the public hearing. Any further discussion? Motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Yes. So made.
I'll second.
There you go. That works. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. And last one, 2021-082.
Resolution number 2021-082, a resolution of the Council of the City of Nixa accepting the bid of D&E Plumbing and Heating Incorporated for certain stormwater and drainage improvements located along Cherry Street and authorizing the city administrator to execute a contract for same.
Mayor and council, for your consideration this evening is a bid award to to D&E Excavating for a stormwater improvement project that is a phase one of a multi-phase project that will provide stormwater improvements from North Street south at the junior high, south through the JTSD campus, terminating at Rice Street. This first phase of the project that was budgeted for this year includes the south side improvements starting at Rice Street north to across Market Street to 309 Market Street. This is the first phase, again, of a multi-phase project that will be completed through as monies become available in subsequent budgets. This project is within the budget that was allotted for the 2021 CIP. Staff has recommended approval to a bid award for D&E Plumbing.
Any questions?
No.
Thank you, Travis.
All right, thank you.
And we'll open the public hearing. If anyone would like to speak to this. And we will close the public hearing. Any further discussion?
I think this is a really good thing that we're going to approve this, because there's been a lot of, this has been on our radar for so long. And there's been some people on Facebook recently saying, why aren't we doing anything for that end of town? Why aren't we doing something? And this is going to answer a lot of questions for them. So I think this is a good thing to do.
I think we'll also be able to tie this in with the commercial projects that we had approved, or commercial rezoning that we had approved a little while back. That will help this as well. So.
Yeah.
Anything else? Motion to approve.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. And move into our new business item, vaccination incentives. Mr.
Mayor, Council, we've had several inquiries about whether or not the City of Nixa intends on participating in any type of incentive program for COVID-19 vaccinations. So tonight I'm looking for some direction from Council and some discussion and some possibilities. I'll let you know that we've looked into, or at least that we've researched, as possible incentive programs if Council would elect to go down that path. One of those things that we've looked at is as simple as a $25 gift card for anyone that has a vaccination. Now, the benefit of that would be that those gift cards could, or the hope would be that they would be used locally, which then would in turn also benefit our local businesses. Now, that we did explore the option of doing actual local business gift cards, but there was a concern about making sure if we were to do that, to make sure we would be all-inclusive, to make sure every business is representative. So quite honestly, for management purposes, it would probably be more realistic just to do a $25 like gift card for Visa, MasterCard gift card, and just hope people were to shop local when they utilize that. Now, if we were to obtain a maximum 100% vaccination rate, this is just based off of the current, or at least the July 1st, 2019 estimated census data, which put the city of Nixa at about 22,515 people. And then I looked at all those that are the age 18 years and older, because that's where the breakdown is for the census data. Although we know that all the way down to 12 right now has been approved for the vaccine, we just don't have those numbers yet. So I just used that 18 as a baseline. If we were to have a 100% vaccination rate, the total cost, if everyone were to participate, would be about $414,000. And then if we were to reach like a target of a 70% vaccination rate, which was originally mentioned back whenever the federal government started giving out rates, is a good target, that would be about $290,000. And that's if everyone were to participate, or 70% of the population over 18 would participate. You could still do something as well for those that are under the age of 18. I just don't know what that cost would be, again, because I don't know those numbers at this point. So that's one thing that we looked at as a possibility. Another thing that we researched was the possibility of holding drawings for discounted utility bills. We've done that for other programs, such as the blood draw coming up and things like that. We've given away a drawing to take $50 off or $100 off your utility bill. And we could, whatever dollar amount council would to elect to do, that would be an option. The other thing that we looked at is potentially doing drawings for community center family memberships, maybe a year membership, or even a pool pass for a year. And you can see those costs there as well, where the aquatic season pass would be $95 for the first person, $15 for each additional household. So if you had a family of four, it'd be about $140 per family. Again, with the membership, you could do an annual membership to the fitness center for about $310. A family membership would be $505. So again, the total amount or expense would just depend on how many of those council would to elect to have a drawing for. And then the other thing that we researched is obviously the governor's got the incentive program right now that he has in place. He's given away 900 winners total in that system for $10,000 a piece. Now, they have broke that down into each congressional district. So if I've got my numbers right, that'll be about 100 winners in our district. So that'd be about the Southwest Missouri area. So the idea would be that if someone were to win that drawing at the state level, that we could then, as an incentive, we'll either double that, make it 20,000, or you could minimize your expense and do like an additional 1,000 or whatever level council would elect to do. Now, the benefit of doing something like that and partnering or piggybacking on the governor's incentive program would be that we wouldn't have to track any type of vaccinations, so people wouldn't have to come in and show us a vaccination card or anything to be part of the drawing. It would just be all up to the state, and then whoever won that one person could then come to the city and say, I live in the city of Nixa, and here's the proof that I've won that drawing. So that'd be the benefit of that. Again, the expense there, it just depends on what council's comfort level is if you decide to go down that route. The likelihood of someone winning in Nixa, I don't know. We actually reached out to our insurance company to see if they insure this kind of thing. But we were looking at if council were to elect to do a much larger sum, for example. We looked at, could council elect to do a really large sum and have an insurance policy so it minimizes the cost on the city? They just said the odds were too good, so they weren't willing to go down that path. But we did at least explore that, just so we'd be able to provide council with all the information that we could. Now, I will mention that ARPA funds can be utilized for an incentive program. The state just received those funds earlier, last week, I think, or earlier this week. I can't remember now off the top of my head. I think it was last week, but maybe Thursday of last week. But they've received those funds, so now we wait for that to be passed on to the municipalities. But those funds, once received, could be utilized for an incentive program. The U.S. Department of Treasury did specifically say that is funds that is allowable to be spent for that. The only caveat I'll say is that, and I'll just read it here, I'll have to get my glasses on because I can't see anymore. But if council were to elect to use ARPA funds, it just basically says that programs that provide incentives reasonably expected to increase the number of people who choose to get vaccinated or that motivate people to get vaccinated sooner than otherwise would have are an allowable use of funds so long as the costs are reasonably proportional to the expected public health benefit. Of course, the question there is what is reasonably proportional? So, and obviously that's not specifically defined, so that is something that we would have to look at and just make sure that we're being reasonable in what we do offer in that incentive program. So those are the things that staff explored. And again, this is for council discussion on whether or not you want to go down that path, and if so, what you would like for staff to work on.
Any questions?
I mean, I have several kind of thoughts about it. I like the idea of an incentive program. I'd like to see Nixa achieve a higher rate of vaccination. You know, something like a $25 gift card, I don't know if that's really gonna, people who absolutely don't want to be vaccinated, this isn't even who we're talking about because they're not gonna do it probably for any incentive. People who are kind of on the fence, kind of ambivalent about it, I don't know if $25 is really gonna be enough of an incentive to kind of push them over the edge. So my feeling is that's a good idea, but I think $25 would be kind of pointless. But then the question is, how much can we afford? Could we do a tiered kind of thing where the first X number of people who came in get this, you know, larger amount, and then the next X number of people get a smaller amount kind of thing? That's something that just came into my head. Then you run into the issue of how do we make sure that vaccination cards are genuine? Because I know that fraudulent ones exist. So there'd be that. I do like the idea of matching or partially matching maybe the state's 10,000. I think that's kind of a neat idea. Those are just kind of my thoughts off the top of my head.
Anybody else got any other thoughts?
So, yeah, I got, I guess, several emails, I don't know if it stemmed from this, about what we were going to do, or if we were going to mandate vaccinations and vaccine passports. And so I emailed them back. I said, I'm against that. We're not going to force vaccines. We're not going to have you show your vaccination card to engage in public. I talked about that, I think, April 12th. However, I am for if we use the American Recovery Act money, which is specifically designated to encouraging vaccines. And so I'd be in favor of, something that mirrors the governor, where, if someone wins in Nixa, there's no guarantee someone will win in Nixa, but we use that money to just do a local incentive. I know we've also done several workshops with local churches and other things like that. And so this would be another way for them, when they're speaking to their congregations, to incentivize. I know locally there have been several vaccination events, I believe. This would just be another tool for them. I'd like to work with the school system, maybe seeing if they can provide something for 18 and younger, if they're in the high school or something. I know for me, I won a free parking pass my junior year of high school here. So I don't know if they'd want to offer something like that. That'd be something we could work with them to see what incentives they might want to do or would be willing to offer. And then we could also maybe partner with parks to do something there for families.
And I'll also just mention that the governor's program also has an incentive for those under 18 that is an educational savings account, so to speak. I honestly don't know all the details about it, but I know that he's given away that. They're giving away $10,000, 100 of those to those between the age of 12 and 18 as an incentive as well. So
I'm kind of with Justin. If we want to use the ARPA funds to do something, I would be more in favor of that, but not using city funds. I'm going to be kind of a Scrooge on this, folks. I don't think you should have to bribe people to get a vaccination. I just don't. If you want it, fine. If you don't do it. When we wear a mask, fine. If you don't want to wear a mask, that's the incentive that you're taking to either protect or not protect yourself. But when you're offering this thing for free to begin with, I think that's a pretty good thing to do to begin with. If you'd like to offer free testing, COVID testing, that might be a whole new ballgame, because I know there's a charge for that if you want to go get that done. So, just my opinion, folks.
Walgreens and CVS do both provide free testing as well.
Good. Well, good, because
Oh, do
for a while there, they weren't doing that.
No,
So.
yeah, it did cost in the past, but it is free now.
Okay,
So
good.
my only concern with mirroring something like the governor does, the chances of someone in Nixa winning that is, I mean, they're giving out 900 total prizes, 100 in our area. The number of people that's been vaccinated is probably gonna be rather large compared to the population and the number of drawings. Would there be a way that we could actually have our own type of drawing system?
Yeah, and we could definitely do that. The downfall is we have to manage that. We have to make sure everybody comes in and shows us their vaccination card. And then you also have the issue, as Mr. Hookstrap pointed out, that, how do you tell whether or not it's an actual card or not? So it is something that can be done, but it will be quite extensive to manage.
So
and,
the
to
state's
watch.
doing a thing where they verify your vaccination. You enter your information on the website, and then they verify it if you win. Isn't there a way that we could kind of use their same system to do that?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. Mr. Lucas, I'd have to research that. I don't know if that would be, if they're going to make that accessible to anyone else or not. I don't know the answer
Or if
to
they
that.
could provide us, I don't know.
The resources.
Something, or let us piggyback on that. It's an interesting idea.
I think if we're going to really try to make an impact in our community and getting the vaccination, then having something that seems fairly attainable, if we're gonna have some type of a drawing. Like she said, if it's $25, the people on the fence probably may or may not jump over, but if they know, and if they have the chance of winning $10,000 from the state, may or may not do it because of the low, the ratio. But if we did something locally with just Nixa, I think that would get more people to say, hey, let me go do this, because I could have a chance to win $5,000 or $10,000, and it be in our community.
That's interesting.
I will also say, if we do this, members of council and staff should be excluded
Absolutely.
from benefit.
Sure.
Anything else? I think that's an interesting idea. Why don't we contact the State Department of Health and see if there's some way we can fit
I'll find
into
out.
their system? Like you're saying, I don't like the concept of us trying, we don't have the technology in place to manage it ourselves and capture that data and verify that it's real, or, that seems very difficult. And also gives us a little more time if we get to where the vaccines are actually FDA approved. I think that would be a benefit as well. And if that happens the next 3 or 4 weeks, as they're saying it will, then that will also give us, and it's something else we could promote.
Well, and the nice thing is, if we do have a way, and it's not like we'd have to verify every single person's vaccination card. It would just be when a winner was chosen, we have to verify that person.
True.
So if we could somehow piggyback on the state to be able to do that, then that takes away the concern of fraudulent vaccination cards, because, we're definitely going to validate, and make sure that person is vaccinated before we award them the prize. And yeah, I like Sean's idea of a local drawing for kind of a large sum, because that really might incentivize more people.
And then we could run it in a shorter period of time and have multiple winners, within the community.
Yep,
All right.
we'll reach out to them.
We'll do some more work on that.
If we look at these totals up here, like if we were thinking of spending $300,000 on gift cards, well, instead we could take that $300,000, or not even near that amount, and break it up into several $5,000 or even $10,000 prizes. And, in a town this size, like you said, the odds would be people will actually think I could actually win that. And that's worth it to me to go get vaccinated if I could get $5,000 or $10,000.
Yeah, 1 in 100 or 1 in
Or even.
500 kind of hogs.
Even if there's several $1,000, so maybe a 5,000, maybe a 10,000, I mean. we
Yeah,
could-
there could be different,
I mean,
different tiers. Mhm.
So what do you do
We
for
could do
people
it
who've already had the
$25,000
vaccination?
and break it out.
Those people could enter as well.
$1,000 winners, one $5,000 winner, and one $10,000 winner. I
Mhm.
mean, there's several ways to do that.
At our workshop, we definitely discussed how much money we would get from that program and other initiatives that we could utilize.
I don't remember the amount that we were talking about putting towards this, but.
I don't think we discussed any amount.
We did not. There was no, during the workshop, there was no amount discussed for this program, so it would have to come from one of the other categories.
So I think definitely consider, look back at your notes over the workshop of what the other programs we were considering, and kind of decide on what you would be comfortable with spending on it. And then we can discuss that again when we get the other information.
Jimmy, do we know, have other municipalities done this? And is there a way to, gather any data, or is it kind of too early for that?
Well, that I'm aware of, I'm not going to say there isn't, because I'm sure, I've heard a lot of conversation, but I've not heard of any yet that actually put it in place. But I do belong to a Missouri managers group that I'll reach out to and try to get some information if other cities have done something similar. And I'll get back with you on that.
I'm sure it has been done, it's included in the ARPA money, because somebody asked that question, if you could use it for that, so.
Yeah, I think we should go big or go home, honestly, because if the end goal is to get people who are ambivalent about getting vaccinated, to get them to decide to become vaccinated, it needs to be something really worth it to them.
On the flip side of that, we could have all 100 winners from our area, and then we match $100,000.
That is possible.
We're all pretty lucky to live here already, so we're going to be lucky to win the state award. All right, we'll move on. Anything else? Last thing on the agenda, anything else from staff?
I'll just make a quick comment real quick. I am working on getting the Home Rule Charter Review Committee back together, reached out to them, and we're going to be preparing an ordinance to bring back to council to reconvene them. So we'll probably have that first reading at the next meeting, and then the second reading the following meeting, and then we'll get that committee back together. But right now, I'm trying to confirm that those that were on the committee can still participate and haven't moved out of the city or something like that. So working on that currently. So you'll see something come to council probably next meeting.
Anything else? Anything from council?
I do have something. I had a resident reach out to me in regarding to the mosquito fogging truck that we run. And we've had some discussion back and forth. He's contacted Aaron, and I think yourself too, Mayor. And I've worked with staff on responding to this resident. And we sent a response on July 27th, explaining to him that the material we used isn't a safety hazard or health hazard. Sending some material as far as the MSDS, the material safety sheets, and explain to him that he can, schedule when the truck's going to be coming by. His response was that wasn't a good enough answer, basically, and wanted it to be noted in the notes that it had been discussed. He's not made an appearance at any of the meetings that I'm aware of to discuss this himself, so I just wanted to make notes of that, so it is in the meeting that we did bring that up for discussion. But basically, the benefit of the mosquito truck outweighs any of the negative effects, which I don't know that there's any negative effects. Doug, I think you can talk to that.
None that I'm aware of in the way that we use it. I mean, I do know that some people do have a concern about it, as is normal and is understandable. We empathize with that. However, everything that we do as far as we're very careful about even calibrating our machine and that type of thing. So we stick right with all of the, recommendations when we do that to make sure that we're doing it right. That way it's safe for the public. The material's actually made for municipalities and parks and those types of things. So we work hard to do it that way.
Thank you.
And I'd like to add, I think maybe sometimes, and I know I fell prey to this as well. When you lived here for a while, you don't necessarily think about the benefit. And a few days ago, I was at a friend's house in Springfield, and we went outside in his backyard at dusk and literally came inside about 2 minutes later because it was that unbearable. The mosquitoes were just attacking us and biting us. And I at that moment, I couldn't get over. I was like, wow, I can go sit on my patio at dusk. I might get a bite. I'm not saying I never get a bite, but I mean, it's night and day. And it really, I know this is kind of, sounds like a overstatement, but to me, it really does impact quality of life, especially as a person who seems to be a mosquito magnet. So I appreciate it a lot.
I do too. The mosquito truck came down my road the other day, and I was outside, and I thought, this is great. No bugs.
Anything else from council? The only thing I had is that I have down that Ms. Graham will be doing her liaison report at our next meeting. She gives me a dirty look. It's all right, though.
Didn't we just have one on the police department not long ago? Do you really need to know more?
No, we actually went back and looked at it and decided.
Really?
Yeah,
That long?
so.
And the blood drive?
Yes.
when again?
Boy, I should know that. You know that, Drew? Top of your head? When the
August
blood drive is?
19th?
August 19th.
Yeah, it's 19.
August 19th,
I
yes.
think, yeah.
So yes, we'll be doing blood drive Nixa versus Ozark for the Mayor's Challenge Trophy. A big trophy in my office, about yay tall, about that big around. And so Mayor Jackson and I will be having a competition, so hopefully everyone will come out at the Bridge Church on the 19th. I think it's noon to 4, something like that, noon 4 to 5. Get more information from our Facebook page, but I hope everybody will come out and donate. It's a great cause. Anything else?
Mayor, if you don't mind, real quick, I just got an email from Dr. Peak with an update on vaccinations. I'll just give that info to you.
Great.
It literally came in as we're sitting here. Currently, we have 41.4% of Christian County vaccinated, or that is initiated vaccination. Currently have 34.9% that have completed the vaccination. So that's the difference between the first shot and the second shot. So, and she said over the last 7-day period, we've had 1,819 doses administered in Christian County. So I asked for those stats from her, and I just got them, so I wanted to share them.
Yeah, I think from our call last week, we had like pretty much a tripling
Yes.
of, since the Delta outbreak here, we had about a tripling of the vaccination rate. So I think that's very good as well. Anything else? Mr. Peterson?
I move that city council go into closed session under section 610.021, 2 and 12 of the RSMO so that the council may discuss the leasing, purchase, or sale of real estate and documents related to a negotiated contract. I also move that this closed executive session, records related thereto, and any votes taken by council during this session be closed under section 610.021 of RSMO, and that the city council shall stand adjourned after the closed executive session.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Justin Orff,
Yes.
Aaron Peterson,
Yes.
Darlene Graham,
Yes.
Amy Hookstrat,
Yes.
Sean Lucas.
Yes.
Thank you all very much.